Guys, how are we doing today? I am your Emperor, Crowned Fiend, and today we're doing What If Deku Was the Scarlet Spider? Now, when I say Scarlet Spider, there are two names that come up in people's head. No, Deku will not be Kane. He is going to be the son of Ben Riley, the first Scarlet Spider. So, yes, that's pretty much what's going to end up happening. Now, Kane will make an appearance in this, because I have thought about this a lot, and this is actually something that I want to do. So, yes, but before I do that, I'm just going to go ahead and let you know that this is actually going to take place with the Spider-Man characters. They're going to be the ones from the deal where Peter Parker saved Uncle Ben. He did not let Uncle Ben die. So, the universe that has the armored spider, which that's basically, for those of you who don't know, the spider suit that has the silver armor on it with the black mesh around the armor. So yeah. Now then, this is where we're going to pick up the story, right here. So, how things are going is that Peter and Ben are fighting in Japan. They're fighting Norman Osborn, who at this point is the ultimate form of the Goblin. Now, things are going bad because Peter and Ben are getting their asses handed to them. Norman's not playing around. He wants to kill both spiders, as Peter is doing his very best, but it's just not enough. Where he's trying, but he's about to be killed. Norman's about to snap his neck. That's when Ben strangles Norman with his webbing, because Ben is a much more brutal Spider-Man. He doesn't mess around. He won't hesitate to kill a motherfucker. He won't hesitate to put you in a fucking coma. Has nothing. So, guy's way more brutal than Peter. And that allows Peter to get away and kind of catch his breath. But Norman is beating the fuck out of Ben and eventually just stabs a fucking street pole straight through Ben and ends up killing him. And while this is happening, there's a woman holding a 1-year-old baby in her arms. The baby's name is Izuku Riley. As Inko is crying after seeing her husband die on the TV. Now there's another woman at another house. Her name is Mary Jane. And she's holding a little baby. As the baby is looking at her father. As Peter's fighting as hard as he can, he is eventually put down by the Goblin, as Peter's just gives everything he's got. As he takes a fire hydrant and hits Norman in the face, Norman impales Peter a little bit, not enough to instantly kill him, but Peter just breaks it off as he webs up his own wound. As he would pick up a car and would slam it on top of Norman, take the pipe out of Ben's body and drive it through Norman's head, killing him. And with that, Peter would be stumbling around getting to Ben to see if he's alright, as he would look at Ben's body and know he had died. As Peter would crawl over there, the ambulance would arrive and would take him to the hospital. Now, Peter would later die from his injury, meaning there is no Spider-Man or Scarlet Spider in Japan anymore. Peter and MJ moved over there because he left America in Miles Morales' hands. Ben had already quit being the Scarlet Spider after Kane came along. But After Kane learned that Ben died, he vanished. He retired from being the Scarlet Spider, leaving Miles as the only spider-themed hero active. As Deku. As Deku would grow up, he would be asking his mom to tell him about his father, as he would be around 5 years old. As she would say, he was a very interesting man. He valued their safety above all else, and he was the type of hero that was more brutal towards criminals. He believed that criminals needed to learn their lesson the tough way. They didn't deserve to have any mercy. And that is what's going to resonate with Deku. After all, Inko would show Deku pictures of Ben as the Scarlet Spider, news clippings, everything, as they would call him a vigilante. And since Deku's family's like a lot worse off now, and not as financially stable, it would cause Deku to go to lower end schools, where he wouldn't really be friends with anybody, because there's really nobody around him to be his friend. And Deku's personality is he's very cold and callous towards people. He's not really that friendly type of person, because neither was Ben. Ben was not a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And Kane surely isn't as well. So the years would go on as Deku would don his first spider outfit he made himself, which is the one you're seeing on screen and have been up to this point. Gameplay will be shown, however, it'll be a little bit later. So yeah, just hold on until then. But anyway, with that, Deku would ultimately just don that as he would start his vigilante cycle in middle school, where he would see and hear that gang members had been harassing his classmates, and he would follow them into the alleys where he would beat them relentlessly, nearly killing some people, but he would never cross that line. He would leave them battered, bruised, broken bones, teeth knocked out, as then he would disappear as the police would arrive. As Deku would watch as each person he put behind bars would just rot there, as he would ultimately feel very satisfied. As rumors would start spreading about a new spider type of person, as keep in mind, Deku's powers are a lot like Ben Reilly's. He doesn't have organic webbing, but he has a pretty decent spider sense. He has the ability to stick to objects, super strength, increased durability, remarkable agility, and speed, stamina, all the stuff that a basic Spider-Man would have. But Deku does have to make his own webs and web shooters, which Deku's an genius. He is an amazing scientist and inventor. So he can make anything he needs relatively easy. And Inko knows about what Deku's up to because she helped him, sew his outfit together and spray paint the spider on his hoodie and made his mask for him. So yeah, she's actually very proud of him, as she says that she's always going to support him in what he does. Deku would say thank you. As the years would go on, it's Deku's last year in middle school. He's gotten pretty good at being a Spider-Man vigilante, and that's when he would run into an alleyway, but he would feel something was off, as these guys were harassing this dude who was wearing a trench coat. As Deku could see, there was like something red and black on his arms, as he would have a hood on so he couldn't see his face. And that's when he would see it. The man would have retractable talons as they would come out and stab into the people that were messing with him. As he would beat them to death, he would have just killed those people. As Deku would jump down in his Spider-Man suit and would say, "Whoa, who are you?" And that's when the man would drop the trench coat. As he would say, "Ah, there you are. I've been looking all over for you. What the hell type of spider suit is that?" As Deku would say, "You didn't answer my question. Who the hell are you?" As he would say, "Kid, I'm the Scarlet Spider." As Deku would say, "You're Kane." As Kane would say, "Yeah, and I've been looking for you." As Deku would say, "Oh, why is that?" As Kane would say, him and Ben never really got along. But the deal is that he ultimately did respect Ben. And since his death, he knows that there's been nobody to train him. So he's no longer the official Scarlet Spider. He's retired from that. But he wants to make Deku into the Scarlet Spider. As Deku would say, he accepts his offer. And throughout the next year, Kane would live with Inko and Deku as he would train him in his powers, abilities, and making him a better Spider-Man, teaching him more hand-to-hand combat and even some swordsmanship, because little do people know, Ben Reilly is a master swordsman, as well as a master hand-to-hand combatant. So yeah, pretty much that's how that happens. As throughout the year, Ben Reilly's suit would actually be sewn up by Inko, and she's getting ready to give it to Deku as a surprise for all his training. But Kane walks in on her sewing it and he says, "I think we should alter it a little bit." As she would say, "Oh, what do you mean?" As he says, "Well, the kid's wearing green, right? He doesn't wear a single thing blue. So, I'm pretty sure this wouldn't make Ben too mad. But why don't we just go ahead and change that blue hoodie to a green one?" As Kane would take it and he would spray paint the hoodie from blue to green. As he would put it back on the costume, as Inko would say, it looks just perfect for him. As Deku would walk in from doing his vigilante justice stuff, saying that he's already filled out his high school form and all that good shit. As he would see the costume and he would say, "Whose is that?" As Kane would say, "It's yours, kid. You've earned it. From now on, you're the Scarlet Spider." As Deku would say, I don't know what to say." As Kane would say, "Well, try it on." And that's where Deku would start to try on the Scarlet Spider suit. And this is where the gameplay kicks in. So, with this, Deku would try it on, as he would say it fits like a glove. As Kane would say, "Good, I'm glad it does." As Deku would look and would say, "Thank you." As Kane would nod his head and he would say, "Don't mention it, kid. Now go out there and do the Scarlet Spider name proud." Deku would say, "Of course. I'd always planned to." As he would head up to his room to rest, as Kane would say, it's about time he's been on his way. He's gonna be sad to see the kid go off and grow without him, but he's got nothing more that he can do here. And besides, he's starting to miss Texas. As Inko would say, that's fine. And if he ever needs a place to stay, or is ever in Japan again, he's more than welcome to stay with them. As Kane would say, thanks, as he would head on out. As Deku would be fast asleep, Inko would walk up there, cover up Deku, and would say, nice work, my little spider. So, yes, now, where Deku would choose to go for his high school would be Ketsubutsu Academy, or better known as where Miss Joke teaches. Now, I know that all of the students from there that we saw were third years, but the thing I'm going to end up doing is aging them down to first years. So, yes, that's going to happen, but I'm also going to be adding in other characters to fill out that class a little bit more. So, yes, the ones who are going to be filling out that class a bit more, besides Deku and the other 4 that I'm aging down to first years, will be Shinzo, Jiro, Toru, and Ojiro. As some of those characters may or may not be very important to the story later on. So yeah, that's where we're going with it right now. And there's a reason why Deku is chosen there, because it's closer to home and closer to his territory. So yeah. Anyway, it's his last day, and he pretty much decides that he's just gonna skip it. He's already turned in his form, so he starts his training. So, over the next 10 months, Deku's training by himself, but during that time, he does hear about a breakout happening as he goes down there to see a security van being, just dismantled, and its prisoners are breaking out. Now, Deku waits for them to go down the alley as he stops them right there. He webs them up with his new web shooters as he throws them onto the wall, sticking them. He would then go to kick them straight in the face. He would start kneeing them in their stomachs, breaking their ribs. He would be a lot more brutal now, especially since Kane trained him. So, on top of that, Deku would break their arms, legs. He would dislocate their jaws, as he would also just fracture some of their skulls, as he would leave them webbed up as he would web on off. And as soon as he got up there, he would see someone running. He would just be like, what the hell? As that's where he would start running after them. He would go from rooftop to rooftop, zipping across them, as he would get right there up on them as he would tackle them down, and he would see it's a woman with white hair in a cat-like suit, all leather, as she would then kick Deku right on off of her, as he's just like, the hell? Why didn't my spider sense go off? As the girl would say, ooh, who are you? As he would say, I'm the Scarlet Spider. Who are you? She says, Black Cat's the name, and stealing's my game. Now, if you don't mind, I got somewhere to be. As Deku would say, not so fast. As he would try to shoot a web, she would dodge and then throw an EMP at him, shorting out his web shooters. As Deku would say, I guess doing this the old-fashioned way, as he would run after her. But she would be a lot quicker than him, with maneuvering and jumping from rooftop to rooftop, but Deku wouldn't give up. As his web shooters would come back up, he would shoot a web, catching her, and would just send her flying back, as he would slam her into one of the walls up on the roofs, as she would hit the wall and would slide down. she would say, ah, well, I like the ones that play rough. As Deku would say, pretty soon you're not going to be saying that. As she says, oh, don't worry, I think I will. As she throws a smoke bomb down, as Deku would look, she would be gone. And he's just like, what the hell? Where'd she go? Damn it! As he'd be mad that she got away. So, Deku would head on home. As he would be irritated when he gets in through his window, as he would throw his mask off, take his hood off, and would just be angry. As he would throw the glass that was on his nightstand against a wall, Inko would come up there and would say, what the hell is wrong with you? As Deku would say, he let one get away. As she says, well, that's nothing to beat yourself up over. Sometimes they get away. It's something you're going to have to learn. Okay? As Deku would say, but Kanan he'd be disappointed in me. And she would just say, get better and don't break the fucking house. Now get to sleep. As Deku would say, fine. So, Deku would go to sleep. As he would have a dream, but it would be about that black cat that he had an interesting run-in with, to say the least. He would wake up as he would just immediately take a shower and get ready for more training. He would be pumped as he would hit the gym, as he would just be working out, lifting insane amount of weight, as Deku would be able to lift like 2,000 pounds, as he would just keep getting stronger and stronger, because with the proportional strength of a spider, you're able to at least lift insane amount of weight. And Deku's just like making himself even stronger so he can lift even more. So yeah, after he gets done benching 2,000, he squats 2,000, deadlifts 2,000, as he's just like showing everybody up. And since, quirks came about, like everybody just started implementing a lot heavier weights at the gym, and Deku's maxing out at 2,000. And they're just like, holy shit, that guy's nothing to fuck with. As they just think Deku has a strength quirk. But truth is, he doesn't have a quirk at all. Since Ben Reilly had genetically the same amount of radioactive spider DNA that Peter had, his offspring would technically be a mutant, not a quirked person. So yeah, means Deku's powers can't be stolen or turned off. So yeah. Now, when Deku would get out of the gym, he would go for a run. He would run from the gym all the way up into the mountains, as that's when he would practice his web swinging. Being alone in the mountains would mean that he would be able to just get away from it all. And that's when he would actually see something. Blue flames. As he would stop right there, as he would get closer to him, it would be hot, as he would say, what the hell? As that's when the guy would look back and he would say, oh, sorry, I thought I was the only one up here. I'm practicing, As Deku would just say, I get it, man, trust me, I was practicing web swing. As he was like, wait, web swing? Is that your quirk? As Deku was like, no. Just a device I made. As he was like, oh, that's cool. Show me how it works. Deku would just say, alright. As he would show him by just like pushing the trigger and the web would come out. He's like, awesome. Deku would say, I guess so. As basically, the guy would say, oh, where are my manners? My name is Toya Todoroki. What's your name? As Deku would say, well, my name is Izuku Riley. It's a pleasure to meet you. As he said, you have a weird last name. Deku would say, yeah, I get that a lot. As Toya would actually remember an old man telling him about a guy named Ben Riley. He said, hey, this is a weird question, I know, but are you by any chance related to Ben Riley? As Deku would say, who told you that name? As Toya would say, well, when I was a kid, I had a lot of issues, and I'd always run off. And luckily, this old man found me, as he talked to me. And he actually changed my life. I was headed down a self-destructive path, but he told me that it's just that my father cared about me, didn't want me to get hurt, that he told me to stop training. But I still train, I just don't overdo it anymore. I'm slowly raising my limiters, even if my body won't accept it. As Deku would say, okay, how does that feed into Ben Riley? As he would say, oh, right. It was a few years ago, actually, a lot of years ago. The man would have told me that, he lost his nephew. His name was Peter Parker. But he also lost someone that was very close to him as well. His name was Ben Riley. As Deku would say, who was that old man? As Toya would say, he just called himself Uncle Ben. As Deku would say, Uncle Ben? Can you help me meet him? As Toya would say, sure, of course. As he would take out his phone and would call Uncle Ben. As Uncle Ben would answer and would say, Toya, yeah, I'm free. Come on down. As he would say that, okay, well, come with me. Let's go meet Uncle Ben. As Deku would walk with Toya, as they would take the train and go to this little house right in the outskirts of the big city. As he would knock on the door, as an elderly man would answer it and would say, well, I'll be. Hi there, Toya. Who's this fellow with you? As Deku would introduce himself as the son of Ben Riley. As Uncle Ben would take a step back as he would say, My boy. As tears would come to his eyes. As he would tell that Ben Riley was the clone of Peter Parker, but he was still his own person. And even though he was a clone, he still considered him to be his nephew. Which means that as Ben Riley's son, Deku is family to Uncle Ben. As Deku would struggle hearing that his father was a clone, as he would say, then what does that make me? As Uncle Ben would just say, you're your own person. Come right on in. As Deku would enter the house with Toya. As Toya would say that he kind of reminds him of his younger brother, Shoto. He should probably meet him sometime. As Deku would just say, sure, maybe sometime. As Uncle Ben would recount the tales of Ben Riley and Peter actually fighting crime together for a large majority of time. But when something happened between the two of them, they decided to go their separate ways. As Deku would say, what was that? As he would say that's when Ben started killing criminals. Peter couldn't accept that. He knew that Ben was always more brutal than him, but he never thought Ben would actually cross the line and kill somebody. Neither did I. I didn't think Ben was possibly I didn't see it in him, you know? As Deku would just say, it was more effective. He didn't believe that they deserved mercy after what they've done. As Ben would say, but everybody deserves the chance at redemption. And who are we to play judge, jury, and executioner? And Deku says sometimes it's necessary. As he would say, you sound just like your father. As, Deku would say, I'll take that as a compliment. And Ben said, it certainly is. Your father was a fine man. As Deku would say, thank you. As Ben would give Deku his phone number, and he would say, if he ever needed anything, he'll be here for him. As Deku would say, thank you. He would say, one last question. As Uncle Ben would say, yes. He would say, have you ever heard of a black cat? And Uncle Ben would say, oh, Felicia Hardy. Yeah, I know about her. She hasn't been the black cat for ages, though. Poor girl. She quit everything when Peter died. The two of them were like lovers. Well, somewhat lovers. As Deku would say, of course. So, Deku would leave with Toya, as he would also get Toya's number. And for the remainder of the months, Deku and Toya would actually train together, giving Deku actual real-time combat exercise with people with a flame quirk or long-distance quirks. Because up until that point, he's only been able to fight against people who had close-range or mid-ranged quirks. He really didn't go up against a lot of people with long-range quirks at all. So, he gets ready to go. As he thanks Toya for his time, heads on home, eats, showers, hits the bed. Next day, he wakes up, time for the entrance exam. Now, since we really don't know what Miss Joke's school's entrance exam actually is, I'm just going to create one. So, yeah. And just for simplicity's sakes, I'm always just now going to refer to it as Miss Joke's school, because, yeah, that name, I'm not about to get tongue twisted in saying it, so yeah, just so you know. That's what's going to be happening. So, Deku gets to the school as he's first has to take his exam. No problem, he passes that with flying colors. Now for the second part of the exam, the physical application part, he's actually required to complete an obstacle course in a set amount of time using his quirk. Deku says, sure, why not? So he takes a look at the obstacle course, and at first you have a 100-meter dash, then you have a wall climb, and then you have to jump a gap when you get down from the wall, climb up the rope to get to the second part of the obstacle race where you jump hurdles, and then you have to then make your way back down, and then you're at the end. He has to complete it in about 5 minutes. So Deku says sure. They start, and Deku's running. As soon as he gets to the wall, uses his wall crawling powers as he just runs up the wall. And everyone's just like, wait, what? As Deku just jumps off of there, as he honestly just jumps all the way over the whole bottom fall, as he just gets onto the rope, climbs it, and then he moves on. Hurdles are no problem to him, as Deku and then jumps down and runs all the way to the finish line. With that, he clears it in 2 minutes flat, setting a new record, as they immediately put him in the equivalent to Class 1A, which I'm going to say is Miss Joke's class. So yes, Deku's teacher is Miss Joke. Now, the students that would be in that class with him are as follows. You have Izuku Riley, you have Yo Shinda, you have Tatami Nakagame, you have Shikui Makabe, and you have Ichijiro Tokeki, as well as having, of course, Shinzo, Jiro, Toru, and Ojiro, of course. And there's a reason why those characters are going to this school instead of UA. Because in this timeline, Jiro's family decided that, yeah, she can go to any hero school that she chooses. And the one she chooses is the one that's closest to her house in this, which would be Miss Joke's school. As for Shinzo, he's trying to go for the school that will give him the best possible chance to getting in to a actual hero course school. And yeah, compared to the other people's quirks in here, he would make leaps and bounds, strides into this. Alright, compared to fucking Tatami, who's just limbs retract inside of her body. Like, come on now. And compared to Shikui, who just hardens any, substance he touches except for living persons, Shinzo's quirk is way more versatile in there. So, yeah, Shinzo, of course, he gets in. Toru, she would, once again, she'd get in there because she has a way better quirk than the rest of these people. And she would actually go there because her and Jiro, I'm going to say they're best friends. They've been best friends since elementary school, so they decided to go to the same hero school. As for Ojiro, he's actually going somewhere where he would have more of a chance to stand out. So yes, that's why every single character is in there. So yes. Now then, with that in mind, we get to the first day of school. Alright, so Deku's walking in and he sees there's nobody there except his teacher. So he puts his bags down, he sits in the back of the class, as he's just like, okay, well, let's see how long it takes for everybody to get here. He sits there for about 30 minutes straight. Then the next person to show up would be Shinzo. As Shinzo says, am I late? Deku would say, no. Apparently not. As Shinzo would say, okay. As he would sit down right beside Deku. As the two of them would start talking, and Shinzo would say that he's actually a little bit nervous. And Deku would say he's not really nervous at all. After all, he set a new record here. As Shinzo would say, oh, so you're the guy who did that. Impressive. Deku says, I try to be. Now, after that, Deku would just wait. Shinzo would as well. Deku and Shinzo, they're sharing each other's musical library with each other. Just jamming out to music. Like, they're jamming to rock, metal, fucking rap, you name it, they're listening to it. Like, they're just listening to everything and ranking it. In about 10 minutes after that, you get Ojiro, you get Jiro and Toru showing up, and then you get, like, the rest of the people showing up, as Miss Joke is the last one to arrive. She says, sorry, she had a meeting this morning and it ran a bit late. And Deku's like, I gotcha. And the rest of the students seem to understand as they all look around and they're like, oh, okay. And Yo looks over there at Deku as he says, oh, hey, we have a similar haircut. Deku says, oh, no, I just forgot to get a haircut. He's like, there's no way I'm sharing the same hairstyle as this reject. And Deku immediately books a session at a barbershop right after that. And Shinzo sees him doing that and he's just like, damn. As Miss Joke says, well, it's time for orientation, so if everyone will introduce themselves. As Deku's just like, As Miss Joke says, okay, you, all the way in the back. As she points to Deku, she says, come on up and tell us about yourself. As Deku's like, do I have to? And she says, yep, sure do. And don't forget to smile. As Deku says, yeah, I'll pass. As she just says, okay. As Deku walks up there, he says, my name's Izuku Riley. That's pretty much all you need to know about me. As he would just sit back down. As Miss Joke would say, that's not a lot to go off, and Deku says, that's all you need to know. As Shinzo would come up, and he would pretty much just say that his name is Shinzo. That's pretty much all they need to know about him as well. Jiro would actually be the one to say the most about her, saying that she likes music and has a keen interest in being a hero and saving people. As Miss Joke would just immediately hug Jiro and say, thank you. As Jiro would be kind of freaked out and she would say, yeah, sure, no problem. As Tora would go up there and she would say her reasoning for wanting to be a hero, what her name was, and she would sit back down. Ojiro would come up and would say that he wants to be a hero to be the best one there is. As that's when Deku would say, then why didn't you go to UA? As Ojiro would say, well, it was a bit too far away. As Deku would say, understandable. As pretty much that's when Ojiro would just sit down and he's just like, damn kid. Now, all the other kids would stand up as they would introduce themselves. They would state why they wanted to be a hero. Miss Joke would pry at Shinzo and Deku to say why they wanted to be heroes, and they wouldn't say. So Miss Joke would ask the class entirely who was a hero that they looked up to the most, as almost every single person in there would say Spider-Man. As pretty much Miss Joke would say, oh, but which one? As there would be 4 different Spider-Men up there to choose from. As people would say, what? Who are those other 2? They ain't Spider-Man. As Deku would say, they're called Scarlet Spider. Learn your history, reject. As Yo would look around and would just say, what's got you all up in a twist? As Miss Joke would then look into Scarlet Spider, as she would click on it and the first thing would come up was his name, as she says, oh, that's what's up. As Yo would say, what? She says, the name of Scarlet Spider is Ben Riley. Izuku, was he your father? As everyone looks at Deku and he says, yes, he was. And Yo immediately feels kind of bad. As everyone just looks at him like, you're gonna want to shut up. As Miss Joke says, I'm sorry about your loss. As Deku says, whatever. Don't talk bad about my father. And don't pity me. As she would just say, okay. As she gets the feeling she's not going to be able to handle this guy. He's a bit too serious. And is just cold towards everyone. As she says, I know who to call to help me teach this kid. As they would start going on, she would just put on videos about Peter Parker in action, because that's who the majority of the class voted as their favorite Spider-Man. As she would say, I gotta go to the faculty office real quick to make a call. She would leave the room as Deku would just put on some music in his ears as he would just look out the window and listen to music. As Miss Joke got into the faculty office, she would call up Aizawa. As phone would ring and he wouldn't answer the first time. She calls him back. and doesn't answer. She calls him a third time. He answers and says, "Why are you blowing up my phone?" And she says, "I have a problem." Aizawa says, "You always have a problem. What's the deal?" She says, "I have a troubled student and I'm not sure how to teach him." And Aizawa's like, "What?" And she says, "Yeah. I'm teaching the son of the Scarlet Spider, and I'm not sure how to get him to laugh or even stop being serious or open up to anybody. He's a bit of a troubled child." As I would say, "Well, I can't teach him. He's not at my school. And it's your job to learn how to teach troubled students." As Miss Joke says, "Give me a break, will you? I've never had a case this bad. What am I supposed to say about going over the greatest heroes / vigilantes, and then I have to be careful about where I tread on this kid's dad?" As I always say, I get your dilemma now. That's right. You do have to go over that. That's criteria. Truth be told, I don't know how to handle this. But maybe if our classes had joint training, then it could be a different situation. As she would say, yeah, let's do that. As Deku would just say, "What's taking her so long?" As Miss Joke comes back in and she would say, "Alright class, first things first, we're just going to go over Hero Basics 101. So, the first few weeks are just them going over Hero Basics, nothing too spectacular. They do a few hero exercises, and everything's actually going pretty good. And this is where we get to the joint training, where Miss Joke's class and Aizawa's class have a joint training at the USJ. Now, Miss Joke's class takes a bus over there, as Aizawa's is already waiting, as they're like, "Why can't we go in yet?" As that's when they see a second bus pull up, and out come different students. And Deku is wearing the Scarlet Spider outfit, as Momo is in her black cat outfit. So, yeah, because if you didn't know from the image the first time, you'd know now. Momo is the daughter of Felicia Hardy. So, yes. And basically, Deku sees her and he's just like, "Ah." And Momo's eyes go wide and she's just like, She immediately just turns away from him. And basically, Deku doesn't say anything. Because if he says that he saw her before, then it's gonna reveal that he was actually out doing vigilante stuff. And yeah, he's not looking forward to that. So yeah. But anyway, Deku and his class enter the USJ, along with Class 1A. And Deku ends up standing beside Momo all the way in the back, as the two whisper back and forth to each other. She says, "Hey, Spider." And Deku says, "Cat." And she says, "This is a bit weird, isn't it?" And Deku says, "It's very weird." As she says, "Well, at least now I know what school you go to." And Deku says, "Yeah, now I know that UA has a thief in it." As she says, "Hey, don't try to pin this all on me, Spider." As Deku just says, "Look, don't call me that. It's Scarlet Spider for a reason." She says, "Okay then, Scarlet." As Deku just says, "What do you want?" And she just says, well, for one, why are you looking like a Christmas tree just threw up all over you? And Deku just says, the fuck? And she says, red and green? Really? As Deku says, shut up. As 13 gets done with her explanation, that's when all the villains start coming out. And this time, everyone just realizes how much trouble they're in. As Deku goes to try and keep the doors open, Kurogiri says, no, not happening. As he kind of teleports Deku off somewhere. And Deku, he lands in the disaster zone of the landslide zone. As basically 13 tries to suck Kurogiri back up into a portal, but you know what happens. He plays his reverse Uno card and blows 13's back out. So yeah, that's pretty much what happens to 13 still. So after that, Kurogiri warp gates everyone around. And this time Shoto doesn't end up in the whole, landslide zone. It's Deku and Momo that end up there. Kaminari ends up with the student Yo, and that's pretty much the two there that end up in the same situation that Kaminari was originally. The people that end up in the, water zone isn't Asui. It's pretty much just Jiro, Toru, and Shinzo. So yeah, different situation that time. The others you can just put anywhere. So yeah. But pretty much Momo and Deku are fighting all these villains. And they're actually a pretty good team. Deku throws her up in the air as she then, in turn, comes down with dive kicks on villains, as Deku's spider sense just lets him have an overall amazing reaction speed as he's beating them down, but he's a lot more brutal than what Momo is. Deku's breaking their bones, causing them to spit out blood. He takes one dude up into the air and breaks his back over his knee as he webs them up and just starts throwing them with the web, as he takes one guy's web and uses him as a wrecking ball to just smack into other villains with little to no regard for their well-being. As Momo's going over there, she's using her flexibility and fighting skills that she got from Felicia to ultimately just dismantle people and break their bones as well. The two do work well together, as Momo gets right up in Deku's face after they're finished and says, "Wow, that's a lot of adrenaline flowing through my veins. We work well together, don't we, Spider?" As Deku says, "Yeah, I guess we do." And she would pull Deku's mask up a little bit, just up over his lips, and she would kiss him, and he would kiss her back. As that's when Momo slips Deku her phone number and her address, as she says, "Don't be late." As Deku says, "I'll call you after this." "Maybe." And she says, "Oh, and if you come in the spider suit." As Deku says, "No promises." And she says, "Aw." But ultimately, the two do go to rejoin with the others, as Yo and Kaminari actually prove to be a really good team, as he causes, the kind of waves in the ground, best way I can describe it. It's not really an earthquake, but just waves on the ground, as Kaminari just electrocutes people. And when Yo's down there on the ground and Kaminari gets taken captive, the waves kind of help to get the dude's feet out from under him, and when Kaminari is ready to go again, he just takes him out, since Kaminari doesn't go stupid. So yeah, he is a lot more able to fight. So Kaminari doesn't get taken hostage for very long, as he doesn't go stupid either. As for the rest of the students, they actually make it out pretty well, and Aizawa and Miss Joke are fighting as a team against all these other villains. And when the Nomu comes, right before it can strike or grab Aizawa, Deku just hits the Nomu with a seriously strong punch, as hard as Deku could fucking muster, as he puts Nomu into a fucking crater. And Nomu tries to hit Deku, but the spider sense is just too good. He keeps weaving it as he keeps striking Nomu. And keep in mind, he is very physically strong, pretty much on par with All Might. As Deku just keeps hitting Nomu as they exchange blows, but Nomu's not hitting anything, as Deku webs up Nomu and throws him onto the ground and kicks him as Nomu breaks free of the webbing, and it's just an all-out slugfest, as everyone's seen Deku go toe-to-toe with this thing. As Shigaraki tries to touch Deku, as Deku dodges and Shigaraki ends up touching the Nomu and decaying it away. And that's when Deku webs up Shigaraki and throws Shigaraki into the side of the building, knocking him out. And that's when Bakugo comes and just explodes right there down onto Kurogiri, and that's when All Might burst in, as he would see that there's nothing there that really needs his immediate attention, as he says, alright, let's round everybody up and get them out of here. And that's when Kurogiri gets away from Bakugo, since he was distracted by seeing All Might, and he teleports him and Kurogiri away. Well, him and Shigaraki away. My bad. But yeah. So they do end up escaping. With that, Deku is actually seen as a really big asset, but his fighting style is very brutal. And that actually clicks with Aizawa's thinking, as he says, no wonder. But he doesn't say anything to anybody, not even Miss Joe. But he does pull Deku aside, as he says, have you been doing anything illegal, like vigilante work? As Deku would say, I don't know what you mean. He says, criminals caught in spider webs, almost beaten to death, brutally broken. That fits your fighting style. As Deku would look at Aizawa, and Aizawa says, look, I'm not gonna turn you in or anything like that, but let me help you, alright? Listen to Miss Joke, learn from her. Outside of school, you come see me, and I'll help you as well. As Deku would say, sure thing. As pretty much Aizawa and Deku shake hands on that, and Aizawa says, there's one more condition. Deku says, what is it? Aizawa says, no more vigilante work. If I so much as catch you doing any more vigilante justice, I will report you. As Deku says, alright. So, the two end up having an agreement. Deku ends up being drove in a police car home, but he doesn't go in. Instead, he calls Momo, as Momo says that she's home and that she's waiting on him. Follow the ticket, as Deku says, sure. So he follows the address that's on the ticket, and he reaches Momo's place. But instead of actually taking subway or walking, no, he's web swinging throughout the city. And since he doesn't have organic webbing, it's not actually considered a quirk. So Deku's not breaking any laws, he's not doing any vigilante stuff. So he's able to just get away with that. As he gets to Black Cat's place, as she opens up the door, and the security systems recognize him as Dick Appointment. And Deku's like, oh, hell no. You are changing my name on that. And she says, well, look what I put my name as in your phone. And Deku looks at it, says booty call. As Deku's just like, oh, you fucking did. And she says, oh, yes, I did. As Deku says, gosh damn it. As she says, pretty sweet, huh? As Deku says, yeah. And she says, so, how's the package? As Deku says, oh, why you want to know? She says, well, the name says it all, right? Dick Appointment. And Deku's like, okay. How's the cat? Is it up to date on all its shots? Has it had any previous owners? As Momo says, it's clean and never been used. And Deku's also, is it a stray cat? And Momo just says, no. And Deku just hears laughter, just like a woman dying of laughter. And she says, you must be the new spider. My name's Felicia Hardy. As Deku says, Izuku Riley. She says, no way. You're the son of the Scarlet Spider. Man, that takes me back. As Deku says, you knew the Scarlet Spider? She says, well, yes. Me and him did have a thing here or there whenever, Spider-Man was off with his other woman. As Momo just says, Mom, we talked about this. As she says, I'm just letting him know. And Deku would just say, yeah, okay, cool. So Felicia just says, oh, by the way, did you hear about that new guy going around? Deku says, what? What new guy? She says, you don't know. Deku says, no, I don't know what you're talking about. She says, well, do you know who made your father? Deku says, what? No. She says, okay. Well, history lesson time, kid. Peter told me this a long time ago. But anyways, the deal is that your father was made by a person who called himself the Jackal. Now, he also made Kane Parker, or your mentor. After all, I know everything that goes on in the city, knowing when a spider comes and leaves. It, interests me. Except for that boy in America. He's a bit too young for me. As Deku would say, okay. As Deku says, so what? Jackal around? And she says, no. Jackal's been dead for quite some time. But there's a new guy going around calling himself the Jackal. And going to every ex or current criminal he can and saying that he can give them a clone of Spider-Man. And Deku's eyes go wide as he says, tell me what he looks like. She says, well, I'm not going to tell you what he looks like, but I can give you his real name. And Deku says, that'll work just fine. As Momo sees the anger and rage in Deku's eyes, especially the burning desire and bloodlust coming off of him. As Felicia says, his name is Ujiko. As Deku says, and he calls himself the Jackal. And Felicia says, yes, he does. As Deku says, well then, I guess I better start looking. As Momo grabs him and says, hold on a minute, you made a deal to Aizawa. As Deku says, how the hell do you know about that? And she says, because I asked him. As Deku says, damn teacher. She says, you're not allowed to do anything vigilante type, are you? As Deku says, no, and she says, then don't do it. Let me be your eyes and ears down there. After all, I'm the best thief that could ever be on your side. As Deku would just say, and why is that? She says, for one, I can create a perfect fake while I keep the real thing. My quirk is called creation. As long as I know its molecular structure, I can recreate it, or if I know a fake structure, I create a fake one that looks like the real thing. Deku would say, alright then. I'll let you be my eyes and ears. If you find him, you let me know. Immediately. And she says, sure, I'll let you know. As she says, but you have to do something for me. As Deku says, what? She says, dick appointment. And Deku says, I'm not doing it. She says, I know, it's a joke. But you're going to be my partner. Okay? You're going to come visit me every day. And, well, maybe we can get to know each other a bit better. As Deku would say, fine. It's a deal. And she says, great. And Felicia just says, oh, the kitty got an owner now. As Momo says, no. Deku laughs. As he goes to leave, Felicia says, you can just take the window up there. It opens up. That's how she gets back in late at night without tripping the security. As Deku says, and you just left that unsecure? She says, there's not a lot of people that can fly, you know. And Deku says, she can fly? She says, no. She has a grappling hook. And you have web shooters. So go ahead. Deku took his webs as he goes out the top of the glass, and now that he has the name of the man calling himself the Jackal, he's not going to rest until he's broken. But Deku does miss his father, so he doesn't go home quite yet. He heads somewhere else. As he web swings, he knocks on a certain door, and the man who answers says, welcome back. As Deku says, yeah, I need to talk to you. Just got a lot on my mind. As Uncle Ben would say, come on in, son. As Deku would come inside, as he would sit down, he would talk to Uncle Ben about everything that happened today, and Uncle Ben would tell him that he just needs to rest. He should go home, take a nice hot shower, relax on his bed, and fall asleep, and just see how he feels in the morning. As Deku would thank Uncle Ben for what he's done. As Uncle Ben would say, it's no problem. So, Deku would leave. As he would once again thank Uncle Ben for being very hospitable towards him. As he would go home and do just what Uncle Ben said. Take a nice hot shower, lay on his bed, he would meditate a little bit, and then he would fall asleep. And Inko, after all, she came home late that night. She was out drinking with her friend Mitsuki. As Mitsuki would tell Inko that, you know, she's got a pretty nice little place here. As, you know, Inko would say that she's more than welcome to come inside. Mitsuki would take her up on that offer. As the two women would head inside, as Mitsuki and Inko would trip all the way through the house to Inko's room, and the two would just fall onto the bed, and yeah, they had a night together. And Mitsuki started an affair that night. An affair with Inko. So yeah. And after all, this Inko isn't fat Inko. She's still skinny. So yeah. But Deku would wake up in the morning with Mitsuki walking around in nothing but a crop top and some panties. And Deku would just be looking as his mother would come out and just a long shirt that barely covers up her panties, as Deku would just say, "I'm just gonna go to school." As Inko would just say, "Oh, right." As Mitsuki would say, "Oh, sorry." As Deku, "Oh, it's fine, it's fine." As he would pack up all his things, and Inko would say, "Don't forget the mask, kid." As she would throw him a Scarlet spider mask, as he would use a web shooter to grab it, put it in his bag, and head off to school. Mitsuki would say that, you got a pretty nice kid there, don't you? As, basically, Inko would say, yeah, one of the best ones. And when Deku's heading to school, he runs into Ojiro, as Ojiro says, "Oh, hey, what are you doing around here?" Deku says, "I'm getting an early start and going to school, man. What about you?" As Ojiro says he's gonna go get some breakfast first. And Deku says, "Mind if I tag along?" As Ojiro says, nah, let's go." As Ojiro and Deku go and get some breakfast. Deku gets like a breakfast bowl, and he gets some black coffee. As he starts drinking the coffee, he's like, "Yeah, I needed this to wake me up." As he eats his breakfast bowl with Ojiro, as Ojiro's drinking, he's drinking a latte. So he's not drinking pure black coffee, but he's just drinking some. As Ojiro says, "So, what's going on?" As Deku says, "I just saw my mother and her friend in the living room after a night of I don't even want to know." As Ojiro says, "Yeah, I understand now." As Ojiro says, "So, what happened with you and Miss Hardy over there yesterday at the USJ?" Deku says, "Oh, that. Yeah. What do you mean?" He says, "Well, I'm pretty sure I saw you two kissing." As Deku says, adrenaline. Nothing more than adrenaline." As Ojiro says, "Yeah, sure. Just so you know, I'm pretty sure you're not the only spider kid around here." As Deku says, "What do you mean?" He says, "Haven't you heard? Shiketsu has a spider woman." And Deku says, "Really?" He says, "Yeah. Some chick called Mayday." As Deku says, "Huh, sounds interesting." And he says, "Yeah, long lost cousin maybe?" And Deku says, not really sure how that works. My dad's a clone of her dad, and I'm the son of her dad's clone. I think that makes us like first or second cousins at the most." And Ojiro says, "Yeah, that sounds about right. But hey, still a cousin." And Deku says, "Yeah, one I don't want anything to do with." As Ojiro says, "Gosh, are all spider kids like this?" Deku says, "I don't know." As Ojiro just says, "Whatever, Scarlet." And he says, "Don't call me Scarlet." As he says, "What? she called you Scarlet. And Deku says, but that... I didn't like it when she called me Scarlet either. And basically Ojiro just teases him for the remainder. And Deku's just like, gosh damn it. And he's like, by the way, what the hell was up with your hero costume? Karate gi? As Ojiro says, oh no, that's not my actual hero costume. That's still getting worked on. It should be ready in a few days though. As he's, what's your hero name even gonna be? As Ojiro says, simple. I'm going with Scorpion. And Deku says, huh. Alright. And so, when they get to school, Miss Joke says that she has some wonderful news for them all. That a team of 5 students will get to go and compete against a team of 5 students from UA at their sports festival. And Deku says, oh, who's the 5 students going to be? And she says, well, that's the beauty of it. It's going to be you, Shinzo, Jiro, Toru, and Ojiro. You guys are the team of 5 that'll be competing against their team of 5. Although, from what Aizawa said, their team of 5 is going to be a bit different. And Deku says, what do you mean a bit different? As she says, they're not going to be strictly from his class. They're mixing in class 1A and 1B to fight you guys. As Deku says, okay. And who are the 5? She says, you'll find out when you get there. And Deku says, whatever. So, for the next few weeks, they just all train together, which Deku's getting a lot out of it. Outside of going and seeing Momo and getting any info that she has and spending time with her, because he does get to know her very well in those next few weeks, as she's not really hiding anything from him anymore. And he doesn't hide anything from her. But ultimately, Deku goes and sees Uncle Ben a lot. And the day before the sports festival, they give the students the day off. So since it's not really nighttime, Deku goes, sees Aizawa. Aizawa gets his training out of the way, and then he heads off to Uncle Ben's house. Since it's not nighttime yet, he doesn't have to go to see Momo yet. So basically, he goes there and he sees Uncle Ben. But Uncle Ben has some company. There's 2 boys there. As he says, oh, hello? As Uncle Ben opens the door and says, oh, come on in. As he introduces Shoto Todoroki, as Deku says, oh, yeah, we met a little bit. He says, how do you know Uncle Ben? And Uncle Ben explains the situation with Deku, and he's like, oh, okay. So you're like a really far removed nephew? Deku, basically. As he says, oh, okay. I'm Toya's brother. And Deku says, I know. Your brother's helped me out a lot. Toya's a great older brother, isn't he? And Shoto says, yeah, he actually stood up for me a lot. After, and Shoto touches his face where his burn is. And Deku says, yeah, what happened? And Toya explains everything that happened. And he explains that since Shoto doesn't possess a quirk that's half and half, he only has the mother's ice. Endeavor gave up on Shoto and kept, pushing their mother to have another kid. But it never happened. Because before that could, she dumped boiling hot water on Shoto's face, which permanently scarred him. After that, their father decided he pushed her too far. So, he put her in a mental institute. And that's when I pushed charges on my father. It was enough. So our father, the old number 2 hero, is in jail on domestic abuse charges. So I'm in charge of looking after the family. It's difficult, but I'm making do. After all, I am a pro hero. And Deku says, "What's your hero name?" As he says, "The hero name is Dabi." As he would say, "Dabi, huh?" He says, "Yeah, it kind of came up with it on the spot and it kind of stuck. So, yeah." As he says, "Okay, cool." Because he asks Shoto if he's going to be part of the 5 that participates in the match against his school. As Toya's hearing about this for the first time, and Shoto confirms that he will be one of the 5. But he says he also knows another one of the 5. It's going to be Burnin, as she is a student from Class 1B. And yes, I aged down Burnin and put her in Class 1B. Deal with it. As Deku says, looking forward to it. So, pretty much what happens is they end up going to where Burnin is and introducing Deku to Burnin. As Burnin says, "Oh, Shoto, there you are." As Burnin hugs Shoto, Shoto hugs her back and kisses her as he says, "This is my girlfriend, by the way." As Deku just says, "Your girlfriend? Damn." As Shoto says, "What? Didn't think I had one?" And Deku says, "I didn't think it'd be something to do with fire." As Shoto says, "Oh, yeah. Neither did I, but she's been a really good help. She doesn't judge me because of my burn either." And she says, "No." As she gives him a kiss on the cheek, as she says, "Well, she's got to get going. She's got to hit the gym." Shoto says that, he'll go with her. As Deku says, "Fuck it, I might as well tag along." As he realizes they all go to the same gym, but they never go at the same time. So the 3 of them decide to have a workout session. So pretty much it just works out as they have a bet to see who can lift the most. Deku knows he's going to win. Burnin lifts about 500 pounds, Shoto lifts about 600. As Deku lifts 2,000. And they're just like, the fuck? As Deku just says, "Yeah, so, about that." And, he says it's impressive that Todoroki can lift 600 pounds, though. As Shoto has been saying that he's been working out a lot ever since middle school, so of course he can lift a lot. As Burnin says that she's been doing the same, and Deku says that same here, and Shoto says that maybe I should be able to lift 2,000. Deku's like, no, I have the proportional strength of a spider. And they're just like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And as Deku says, he can stick to most surfaces. He has a spider sense, which indicates when things are about to hit him or when he's in danger. And they're just like, so you're basically hacks. And Deku's like, no, just a spider. And they say, spiders are broken. And Deku says, don't worry about it. And after that, the 3 actually grow very close together as a group. As they start discussing names, as Shoto says, what are we now, Spider-Man and his amazing friends? As Deku says, well, I guess if I change my name to Spider-Man, you could be called Iceman, and then she can be called Firestar. As they just look at each other and say, no, nothing that corny. As he says, yeah, who would go by those stupid names? As Deku remembers, oh wait, there was a exact team like that. Oh, shit. And you're like, oh, well, we kind of pissed off a lot of people. And Deku says, they're probably used to it. As they walk off, as they all go their separate ways, Deku web swings over to Momo's place, where as soon as he enters, she can smell the perfume on him. And she says, who the hell was he with? Deku is with Shoto and his girlfriend. And she says, wait, Shoto has a girlfriend? And Deku says, I was surprised too. And she just says, wow, you learn something new every day. And Deku says, you're telling me. She says, well, I got nothing. So, let's just chill here. As Deku says, yeah, sure. As Inko texts that he's gonna be home alone tonight. As Deku says, Mom's not coming back home tonight. As Momo says, well, why don't you just stay here? As Felicia just says that she has no problem with it. As that's when Deku finally meets Momo's father. As he shakes his hand and he just says, so you're the young man that my daughter's taken such an interest in. As Deku says, yes sir. And he says, well, you stand up straight, very muscularly built. I'm assuming you must be very powerful. As Felicia says that's the Scarlet Spider's son. And Momo's father looks at him and says, this true, as Deku showcases his spider abilities, sticking to the walls. And he says, okay, I'm convinced. As Deku says, thank you, I guess. And he just says, I don't have any problem with you staying over tonight. Just know, keep your hands to yourself. As Deku says, of course, sir. Wouldn't think of doing anything like that. As he says, I wasn't talking to you. As Deku looks at Momo and his face just instantly clicks. He's like, I got you. And basically Momo's father puts his hand on Deku's shoulder and says, yes. Always have to tell her that when someone stays over. And Deku's like, so the cat did have previous owners. And Felicia just dies of laughter. Deku's father, well, not Deku's father, but Momo's father fucking just laughs right there. This man's on the floor just fucking dying. As Momo's face goes red and says, no, it did not. As Deku says, your father just said you had other motherfuckers staying over. As Momo says, they weren't guys. And Deku says, and she says, I am only into guys. As Deku says, okay. As our father's face is just red. Felicia's fucking dying. She's rolling on the ground and Deku just hugs Momo. As Momo just says, no, I'm mad at you. And Deku says, oh, come on. As she just goes to her room and says, you can go home for all I care. So Deku says, I guess I'll head out. As Felicia says, you sure you won't stay? And Deku says, nah, she's pretty mad at me. I'm gonna head on home. So he heads on out as her father and Felicia talk to each other and say that the kid's a good fit for Momo. It'll keep her out of trouble. She's so rich that she doesn't need to steal, but she just has that urge like her mother. And Felicia says, yeah, but a spider always helped me turn out right. So, ultimately, Felicia's very happy that Momo met Deku, as she could use him like she used Peter to keep her on the straight and narrow path. So yeah. So next day comes sports festival time. Now, the person who ends up winning the overall sports festival would be Bakugo. Now, with that, they're given about 3 hours in between, kind of just to build up and let everybody warm up, let the people that need to use the restroom get to the restroom, and give Recovery Girl time to heal up the 5 that's about to be participating against the other people from Miss Joke's class. Now then, with this, we have the lineup, which is, of course, you have Bakugo, you have Shoto, you have Burnin, you have Momo, and the 5th member is actually going to be Kendo. So, that's the lineup for UA. And of course, with Miss Jokes, you have Deku, Toru, Shinzo, Jiro, Ojiro. And they're allowed to wear their hero costumes and use their support gear, which Ojiro has his fully finished Scorpion suit, which his suit is the same one Scorpion wears in Spider-Man PS4. So yes, that is Ojiro's outfit. As Deku walks in his Scarlet Spider outfit, people immediately recognize him, as they say, "Holy shit, there's a new Scarlet Spider." As the media is going crazy covering this from the inside of the sports festival, since the media was allowed to go in and look at things, and it's all over the news. Scarlet Spider resurfaces, as they're all wondering, who could this new Scarlet Spider be? As everyone's just wondering, like, is the Scarlet Spider that big of a deal? And that's when Aizawa comes on over the intercom saying the Scarlet Spider died a long time ago. The new Scarlet Spider is the first one's son. As that just causes people to go in a huge uproar, as they're just like, the son carrying on the father's legacy. As people are typing it up, the #1 vigilante ever, Scarlet Spider's son, goes full hero. As Deku hates everybody, as he yells at them to shut up, as the whole stadium goes quiet, as he says, "I don't want you comparing me to my father. He was a great man in his own way. I'll be a great man in my way. So for now, watch me." As everyone just watches. And there's a few people from Deku's supposed family, like Uncle Ben, he's watching, Inko's watching, Mitsuki's watching as well. They're all allowed in there, as Fuyumi, Natsuo, Toya, and Rei are watching for Todoroki. And the families are pretty much sitting together, as Deku looks at Shoto and Burnin and says, "Let's have a good fight." He looks over there at Momo and says, "You're probably going to enjoy this, aren't you?" And Momo says, "Oh yes." So, they get ready, as Miss Joke watches as the other students are like, "Man, wish we could participate." And she says, "Oh, don't worry, you'll eventually get your time to shine." As the match starts, and the first one who tries to end it really quickly is Shoto. But Deku just uses the ice to climb on and slides down and kicks Shoto in the face. And the fight's on. Shoto can't use his ice because Deku's in too close, as he webs up Shoto and throws him, as Shoto uses his ice to stop him, and before he can even use his ice to shoot out at Deku, his spider sense goes off and he dodges it. While Deku's doing that, Jiro is fighting against Momo, as Momo is overpowering Jiro and ends up knocking her out. Jiro's eliminated, as Momo throws her out of bounds, as the people are just watching like, wow, UA is just kicking their asses. as Toru tries to sneak up on Shoto, but is frozen solid, and she's eliminated. Now Shinzo actually gets Bakugo to spout off his mouth as he tells Bakugo to walk out of the ring and eliminate himself, as Bakugo does just that. Keep in mind, Shinzo still hasn't decided on a hero outfit or a name, so he's kind of just in limbo right now thinking, as people say, whoa, he's so mysterious, a real case of a Mysterio, as Shoto hears that name and says, that is it, my name is Mysterio, as people say, wow, Mysterio, such a good hero name. I'm like, wait a minute, wasn't Mysterio a villain back in the day? Oh well, this new Mysterio looks to be a promising hero. As basically Ojiro just says the Scorpion's in town, as he rushes at Kendo and he actually hits her out of bounds with his tail as she goes flying, as she's eliminated. People say, whoa, that other school's no joke. Look at it, they have the Scarlet Spider, Scorpion, and now a Mysterio. They could actually win this. It's 3-on-3. As Burnin tries to attack Shinzo, she notices his little trick. So, yeah, not gonna happen. As Momo goes over there and starts fighting with Ojiro, as she uses her quirk to create a flashbang and throw it right into Ojiro's face. It blinds him, as she then sweeps his feet, grabs his tail, and throws him out. But he is not eliminated, as he stops himself before he goes flying out and Deku catches him, keeping him in bounds. As Deku throws him back into the ring, Shinzo is eliminated. Burnin's just way too much for him to handle. And right then and there, the tables turn. But Deku says, alright, sorry Shoto, as he punches straight through Shoto's ice, knocking him out. And Shoto is floored, as Deku says, sorry about that, but you really need to cover up that glass jaw. As he takes Shoto and throws him out of the ring. And it's just like that, it's even right back up. 2v2. Burnin and Momo versus the Scarlet Spider and Scorpion. As Ojiro lunges forward, he's getting way too excited and is starting to act really brutal, as he uses his scorpion tail to stab into Momo. As Momo screams out in pain, her blood starts dripping. As Midnight says, what the hell's wrong with you? As Deku grabs him and slams him into the ground and beats on Ojiro until Ojiro's bleeding. He then picks him up and kicks him out of the ring. As everyone is shocked, but they're happy to see this Scarlet Spider has some honor. As Deku yells, what the hell is that? And Ojiro said, what? Scared to get your hands a little bloody? As Deku would just throw his hand at Ojiro, splattering him with the blood that's on his fist from his face. As he says, you tell me. And he says, wow, that girl's got you whipped, ain't she? Have fun trying to win by yourself, Spider. As Momo walks out of the ring after Deku just defended her, and she's too injured and is actually bleeding to continue fighting. And she knows that Deku wouldn't go all out if he knew that she was still in there trying to fight. So she eliminates herself, and now it's Deku and Burnin. As both of them look at each other, and they say, we forfeit. And just like that, the sports festival's special match is over, with a tie being determined. Although UA is declared the technical winner since Ojiro stabbed into Momo. So with that, he actually cost his school the win. But the MVP is given to Deku, the Scarlet Spider. As people are going crazy, news articles posted about him all over the place, even overshadowing what Ojiro did at the sports festival. which is still covered, but nobody talks about it after all because they just learned that there's a new Scarlet Spider, even though they don't know his name. So, with that, the sports festival comes to an end. But everyone heads on home except Ojiro. Ojiro actually goes for a walk, as he goes to a certain bar and walks in and says, "Sorry I'm late." As Shigaraki says, "Yeah, you're late. What the hell took you so long?" As he said, "Well, for one, I did have a match." As All For One said, "Yeah, about that. You kind of fucked up, didn't you?" As basically he said, "I don't see what you're talking about." He said, "You stabbed her, but it wasn't fatal. I told you we needed the bitch dead. She's snooping around." As All For One says, "But there was some good news that came about it. We now know that the Scarlet Spider may be involved as well. Actually, we're certain that he is. But for some reason, he's letting the cat do all the dirty work. So here's what's gonna happen. We're gonna capture her. And you're gonna be the one to do it. You're gonna bring her here, and we're gonna offer her a deal. And if you fuck this up, I'll kill you." And Ojiro says, "Of course. After all, you and the good doctor made me the Scorpion. So I won't disappoint." As it's time for everyone to go to their internships, which, yes, they do get. As Deku ends up choosing Aizawa, so does Shinzo. So the two of them go together to their internship. While Momo, she chooses Uwambi still. But this time it's not all just fashion parades and shows like that. Uwambi actually takes this whole thing seriously, especially after seeing what happened to her on the sports festival. So, Kendo and Momo still go to Uwambi, but Uwambi teaches them a lot more than just paparazzi and commercial shit. With that, basically, Jiro still goes to her same one, Toru goes to her same one. Ojiro actually goes to nobody. He says that he's going to deny his, as he has some family stuff that's coming up that he can't afford to miss. As she says, "Oh, okay, well, you're excused then." And all they have to do is have him fill out that, and Ojiro takes off for the day to go attend to what he claims as family stuff. As all the other people go to theirs, as basically it's time, so Shinzo, Deku, they head to where Aizawa's at, and the two of them are actually training together. And this is when Shinzo actually comes up with a lot of good ideas for his hero costume, and Deku says, "Look, if you go with that bowl head, I am definitely calling you a fishbowl." As Shinzo just says, yeah, say what you want. I think it looks pretty badass." And Deku says, "You have a style all of your own, don't you?" And Shinzo says, "I'll take that as a compliment." And Deku says, "You really shouldn't." But of course, Shinzo doesn't really care. He sees Deku as just someone who's jealous of him. So yeah, that's basically how their day is going. Now, back over there with Ojiro. As night gets ready to be setting, Ojiro heads out. As he starts going rooftop to rooftop. As Momo in her black cat attire starts going from rooftop to rooftop as well. And while she's looking down there listening into a conversation, she's attacked from behind and poisoned. As she drops to the ground and sees the Scorpion. As Scorpion wraps her up in his tail and takes her to the League of Villains hideout. There, he sits her in a chair. She's tied up. As Dr. Ujiko, aka the Jackal, walks in with All for One and Shigaraki, as they praise him for his work. As basically, when Momo comes to after getting the antidote, she's woken up in a daze, weak. She can't move, she can't break free. As All for One says, "Hello, little cat. You've been snooping around something that you shouldn't have." As he says, "But there's a way that you can get out of this alive, and with some money involved as well." As she says, "How's that?" As they say, "We need you to draw the spider over here." As she says, "But he trusts me." As they say, "We know. So he'll do it without even thinking twice." As she says, "Fine. I'll do it. Just don't kill me." As All for One says, "Good girl. Because if you would have said no, your mother and father would have died as well." As she's heartbroken, but at the same time, she has to look out for number one. As she's let loose and put on a rooftop, as she calls Deku over and says that she found it, but he has to come alone. Deku agrees and immediately heads out over there. As when he's there, he looks at her and says, "Hey, what's the deal?" As she says, "Sorry, spider." As Deku's spider sense goes off as he jumps over the tail that's coming right at him as Black Cat dodges. As he says, "Ojiro, what the hell's going on here?" As Momo's forced to attack Deku, as Ojiro does as well. But not just them. Shigaraki's up there as well as he charges straight towards Deku. As Deku's dodging and fighting him off the best he can. He doesn't want to hurt not Felicia, but Momo. Gosh damn, almost fucked up there. But as he's trying not to hurt them, Ojiro eventually nicks him with the poison as it gets into his bloodstream a little bit. As Deku starts feeling woozy, he can't move around the way that he wants to. But luckily, somebody was watching. And this time, she doesn't hold back. As Mayday Parker jumps down there, kicking Shigaraki in the face, taking Scorpion and throwing him away, and then kicking Momo straight in the stomach, knocking her off the roof, before Deku spins a web, catching her as he collapses onto the ground. As Momo cuts the web off and runs as she's going back home. Now, Mayday picks up Deku and takes him to Uncle Ben. As Uncle Ben immediately clears off the table. As Toya was over there visiting, he sees Deku poison barely moving, the green veins in his body. As he starts grunting unrecognizable words. As Mayday takes off her mask and says, "We need to get him an antidote fast." As Uncle Ben says that it's been a while, but he thinks he can isolate the poison and create an antidote. He did it for Peter whenever he was still operating. As Mayday says, "Please do it." As Uncle Ben takes some of Deku's blood and runs it through his computer system, which he learned how to use, but it took him a while. As he eventually synthesizes an antidote. As he injects it into Deku. It takes a while, but the poison is cured as Deku passes out. As they take off his mask and his costume to disinfect it, as it's getting washed, repaired, Toya uses his flame and cauterizes the wound on Deku's arm while he's passed out. When Deku comes through, he's rubbing his face as he looks around and sees Mayday, he sees Uncle Ben, and he sees Toya. As Toya says, "What happened?" Deku explains everything that happened. He explains what he's been up to. As Mayday says, "Wait a minute. They can create a clone?" As Deku says, "Yeah, apparently." As Toya says, "This is troubling. May, can you show me where you found him?" As she says, "Yeah, I can show you." Meanwhile, Ojiro is getting scolded, and so is Shigaraki by All For One, saying, "What the hell? You guys are useless! And now the heroes could be on top of us at any moment." As Toya and May are on the roof where Deku was, as they clean off the blood, as they see that bar down there, and they say, "That could be the place. I'll report this to the heroes in the morning. Until then." And she says, "Gotcha." As they both disperse, and Deku is starting to get back on his feet. He's starting to feel good. He's back in his costume. He's about to put his mask on when May comes in through the door and says, "Where the hell do you think you're going?" And Deku says, "I'm going home, or to look for Black Cat." And she says, "Yeah, well, I'm coming with you." And Deku says, "Why?" She says, "You'll hold your punches." And Deku gets in her face and says, "No, I won't." As basically, Mayday says that I want to watch. As Deku says, "Sure. She betrayed me. It's time I got the answers as to why." As basically they both web swing off, as May starts to ask Deku what's his relationship with her. He says he thought they were partners, but she set him up. As they get down to her house, as Deku breaks in through the fucking glass ceiling, as Mayday comes right down behind him, as glass goes everywhere, as Momo gets up and rushes in as she sees Deku there in full costume. Felicia ends up running in there as she sees Deku and a Spider Woman, as she says there's 2 spiders in here. As Deku says, "You sold me out. You got me poisoned and nearly killed. I'm going to fucking enjoy this." As he throws a punch at Momo, and Felicia's not even believing what she's hearing, as Momo dodges and Deku punches a hole straight through a 30-inch thick concrete wall. As Momo is terrified. She's never seen him this angry. As she tries to reason with him, but Deku kicks her straight in the stomach, grabs her arm, and dislocates her shoulder. As he says, "Start talking." She said they threatened her life, threatened her parents' lives. She had no choice. As Deku looks at Momo's face, he knows she's not lying. As May stops him and says, "Whoa, you're taking this too far." As Deku says, "You're the one who told me not to hold my punches." as she says, "Sorry, should have known what that meant to a Scarlet Spider." As Deku gets all up in his technical cousin's face, and he says, "You think you know all about Scarlet Spiders, huh?" She says, "I know you're one of the more brutal ones. You're getting more brutal than Kane." As Deku says, "Kane was effective. Kane was my teacher." And she says, "That explains a lot. By the way, you should probably know, Kane's dead." Deku falls down. He's like, "What? What happened to Kane?" As she said, "Well, same thing that happened to you. Except there were more guys. There was an Electro, a Scorpion, that crazy guy with the hand fetish, and then there was some other guy there. Don't know who. Security cams couldn't capture him. Except he used a lot of quirks. They killed Kane. Kane killed the Electro, but he couldn't keep fighting after he'd been poisoned and blasted with so many different quirks. He died before he even made it onto the plane." As Deku says, "He's been dead all this time, and no one's told me." She said that they thought they shouldn't tell him because he may have tried to do something stupid. Tears filled Deku's eyes as he takes off his mask as Felicia's tending to her daughter's wounds. As Momo pushes Felicia off her, she hugs Deku. She says, "I'm sorry, okay? I'll never do it again." As Deku shrugs her off and says, "My trust in you is gone. You'll have to earn it back." And he looks right at May and says, "As for you, I don't want you to ever hide anything from me again. As far as I'm concerned, you're both incorrigible." So, while this is happening, the Hosu City incident happens. Except, this time, Stain has a bit of help, instead of enemies. Where Ojiro is sent after Stain, and Ojiro's the one that kills Ida, as he recruits Stain to the Order. So Stain actually joins up with the League of Villains this time, as Ojiro promises him that they'll eliminate all these fake heroes, and by killing Ida he proved himself to Stain, causing Stain to join up. So with this, there's actually a lot more of a threat now, as basically what happens next is everyone is told that the joint training camp deal that they were going on with UA has been canceled, as one of their students has died. So basically, the whole deal with Ojiro's identity being exposed now thanks to Deku, he's no longer welcomed at schools. Even though they're trying to capture him, he knows that his identity's out there. So people are very sad to know that one of their own classmates turned out to be a psychopathic murderer. But there's nothing they can do. So, for a long time, until they hear it on the news, UA's training camp was hit by a villain attack. The League of Villains. As Toga, Spinner, Twice, Muscular, Moonfish, Mustard, Magnite, they're all there, and Mr. Compress is there as well. They all get away, since instead of Dabi being there, it's Stain and Ojiro, because Dabi's a pro hero. So it's his job to help hunt these people down. And since Momo didn't go, there's no tracker on the Nomu. And a lot more people got hurt and nearly killed. But they did obtain their objective, Bakugo. And Deku knows how important Bakugo is to Mitsuki. After all, his mother's been dating her now. So, he decides it's time to go fight. As he puts on his Scarlet Spider suit, Momo knocks right there on his window. Deku opens up the window. She flies on into his room, and she says, "You gonna help me get revenge?" Deku says, "Yeah, but I'm calling somebody else to help us." As she's like, "Who?" And that's when Deku calls Dabi. As Dabi says, of course he'll help. Those bastards attacked his brother. He's not letting them get away scot-free. As the anger flashes in Dabi's eyes, as he hangs up and tells Deku he'll meet him there. The call ends as Deku says, "Let's go." As Deku swings throughout the city, as Aizawa's there with Dabi, as Aizawa says that he'll take full responsibility for letting these two participate. As Deku and Momo are giving temporary sidekick licenses, good for one mission. It's something that Aizawa and Dabi can both do, with Deku being Dabi's sidekick, Momo being Aizawa's, for this one mission. So the police overlook it, as that's where they storm the building. All Might's leading the charge, as basically when All Might just rushes in there, everything goes to hell. Deku is fighting in the middle of the fight. Momo is going around beating them senseless as Deku beats the shit out of Shigaraki. Literally nearly kills the man before he's warp gated away. Muscular tries to rush at Deku, and Deku punches him so hard. He not only just breaks Muscular's skull, he punches Muscular so hard in the jaw, his bottom jaw flies off. As the media cameras are picking this up, as Deku doesn't stop there, as he takes Muscular and throws him into the sky a good 100 feet, webs him and pulls him straight down into the ground, killing Muscular. As everyone's shocked, Scarlet Spider just killed them. Just straight out. As with that, Deku actually keeps going. He keeps fighting. More and more people. Moonfish gets killed by Deku as he punches him so hard, he punches a hole straight through him. Mustard tries to give up as Deku doesn't kill him, but he kicks him so hard in the face he sends him through the wall and into the debris outside. As Nomu start marching in, Deku takes out his frustration and rage on them. Just everything that's happened. Twisting Black Cat to turn against him. Killing Kane. It's all bubbling up inside of him, and capturing his mother's girlfriend's son, his future stepbrother. He's beyond pissed off. As Bakugo looks at Deku and says, "Thank you." As Deku says, "Shut up and fight." As Bakugo says, "Hell yeah." As Deku and Bakugo start working in tandem, their teamwork for just automatically first time fighting together is amazing. As Deku throws Bakugo into the air, spinning, as Bakugo creates a mini Hauser impact like that. And Deku just says, "New move," as he tells Bakugo to continuously let off huge explosions. as Deku webs his feet, spins him around, as Bakugo and Deku say, "Spider Explosion Tornado," as they blow a large majority of the Nomu's back, as Bakugo throws Deku with an explosion at his feet, launching him right at a Nomu, as Deku punches his head clean off. And since they're Nomu, Deku's now really catching a whole lot of flack for this, as he keeps killing Nomu after Nomu with pure brute strength. He even takes one and rips it in half, while Bakugo and Momo are fighting their hardest. Momo ends up snapping a few of the Nomu's necks, killing them. Meanwhile, All Might and All For One are fighting left and right. Debris is flowing as the shockwave sends all of them back, as Deku uses his webbing to stay on his feet, and he barely holds up, as basically Toya goes over there and starts blasting All For One with fire. And when All For One tries to take Dabi's quirk, Deku intervenes, breaking All For One's arm. As Toya and All Might start landing combo after combo, Deku's webbing him up, dancing around them, hitting him as hard as he can. As All For One falls down, Deku hits him with an uppercut, as Toya burns him in the air. As soon as he gets right down close enough, All Might hits him with the United States of Smash, causing a huge vortex to spiral out into the surrounding areas. Toya holds on to Deku as Deku holds on to a lot of the debris, just holding himself back. He thought he was on All Might's level, but he was wrong. All Might's clearly leagues above him in terms of physical strength. As the dust settles, Deku is then arrested by the police, as they march him into the police car and off to the station for the murder of 2 people. As Deku sits there in the police station, he's eventually released, as they say that it looks like he had no choice. They just had to do that to make a public appeal, although you have been expelled from your hero school. You can't go back. And you have been blackballed from any hero school. As Deku says that's fine, as he gets out and leaves. After all, he's collected his web shooters, he leaves the police station. As Toya says he's sorry, he wished there was something he could do to help him get reinstated. As Deku says it's fine, it's not going to stop me from what I have to do. If I have to be a vigilante, I have to be a vigilante. As he says, so what are you going to do? Deku says, what I do best. Hunt them down. As Deku goes for the rest of the months leading up to the overhaul deal, Deku goes around hunting them. He eventually comes across a man in a plague doctor mask. As he watches where he goes, follows him back to where the League was hiding. As he looks in there, sees Shigaraki and all of them, he smiles as he drops a phone call to Toya, giving them an anonymous tip. As Toya and them round up around them, immediately while the conversation's still going, while Overhaul's goons go in there and say, pro heroes, they're all around us. As that's when Deku breaks in through the ceiling and says, sorry, but you messed with the wrong spider today. As basically they say that they need to get out of here. As the League tries to escape, but only Shigaraki, Toga, Mr. Compress, and Twice manage to get away. Magne's killed and Spinner is taken down. Magne's killed by Chisaki as he thought it was a setup. As Deku takes down Spinner. But before he can go after Shigaraki, Toya and Chisaki start fighting. He realizes Toya's outnumbered. So he helps them. He takes down a lot of the Chisaki's guys as Toya's fighting off against Overhaul the best he can, as Deku comes in there and slams his fist against Overhaul's face, knocking him out. And with that, Overhaul's defeated. They get the information they need out of him. As Eri is rescued, Overhaul's situation, his group, they're dismantled. And Deku's very happy. But nobody knows Deku's involved, as Toya keeps it a secret. And he's given the full credit of capturing one League of Villains member, as well as taking down all of Overhaul's, top lieutenants and himself. So, with that, Deku is still roaming around looking for the rest. But that's where I'm going to be leaving it off for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed. Come back again for part 2 whenever that may be. As always, I've been the Emperor Crown Fiend. Have a great rest of your day. Peace.